Last night I dreamed. Not much of this one makes sense, but it was at least a pleasant dream. The very first thing I remember was sitting on a small wooden stool in a huge barn, and a loud booming voice came over an intercom and said to me, at least I think they were talking to me, the voice said, "That's how you do it. That's exactly how you do it." And I looked up at the ceiling of the barn. I was trying to find where the speaker was, and I eventually saw it. It was in a far corner, and the speaker had cobwebs all over it. I don't know who it was. I don't know. But I then looked down at the ground, and I had a bucket of milk in front of me. It looked like it had just been milked from a cow. And it seemed like I had done it because the bucket was right in front of me, but there was no cow in the barn. I looked around me. I was kind of worried that maybe I'd somehow missed the cow and it had walked behind me and it might kick me or something. I don't know if cows kick like horses every now and then, but there was no cow in the barn. So I sat there for a little while, and eventually I figured I should give this milk to somebody, whoever owns the barn or the farm or whatever. And I picked up the little bucket of milk, and I walked outside of the barn, and I couldn't find anybody, so I just laid the bucket down outside beside the barn, which is, looking back on it, that's not really a good idea because it could have rained and ruined the milk. I should have just left it in the barn, but I put the bucket down beside the barn. And the funny thing about the area surrounding the barn was that the ground was not soil and grass. The ground was completely covered in concrete, except for one trail of hay. And this hay trail was, it was probably like 3 feet wide, and I could see that it went off a ways. So, not really knowing what else to do, I just started walking on this hay trail, and I walked for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and eventually I came to a little restaurant, and the hay trail led directly to the entrance of this restaurant. I opened the door, and there was a hostess standing inside in the foyer there, and I said to her, "Oh, that's the last straw." And it was such a bad joke. I hated myself for saying it right away, but I figured they must hear this like 10 times a day from other customers. But actually, there were no other customers in the restaurant. And by the way, I didn't recognize this hostess. She was nobody that I've met in real life, and I didn't recognize her as like an actress from a motion picture or a musician. She didn't seem to be based on anybody, but she led me to a table, and she took my order. I don't remember what I ordered. And I sat there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and she never did bring me any food, but then she came back and she said, "I just spoke to the owner, and you know what, we're going to comp this." Comp being short for complimentary. My meal is for free. And I said to her, "But you never brought me my order." And she said, "Oh, don't play games with me. For all you've done for this town, you're not going to pay for that meal." I didn't argue any longer. I figured, okay, there's probably another hay trail outside the exit, so I'll just find some other place that will actually serve me food. I don't know what the deal is with this place, and I don't know what I've done for this town, whatever this town is. So I said, "Okay, thank you," and I got up and I walked to the exit. I opened the door, and just then it started like storming outside, lightning, rain, thunder. So I looked back at the hostess and I said, "You mind if I just wait here for a little bit until the rain clears up?" And she said, "Oh, certainly." So I just stood there with the door open, just watching the rain fall, and eventually my alarm clock woke me up.